Hello everybody and welcome to episode 2 of Let's Explore. My name is Neil Studd and thank you for those of you who are coming back from episode 1 and thank you for those of you who've shared the videos so far. If you hit the subscribe button, there'll be lots more coming. We're going to do these episodes once every week. Thank you very much to those of you who've submitted their own solutions as well to episode 1. We had some really good feedback from David Richardson, a former colleague of mine who's heavily involved in statistics, so I'm not surprised that he came up with a solution in C# that not only did it do 20 million simulations in 7 seconds, but he also managed to win the lottery, unlike me myself. He also corrected some of the language that I used. I actually referred to the word sequence of numbers a few times when I actually meant set. When you talk about a sequence, it means the order is important, but when you're talking about lottery numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is exactly the same as 1, 2, 6, 4, 5, 3. It doesn't matter what order they're in. Next time I come back and do some Python, I'm actually going to do something where the sequence is important. I've got a plan for something to do next month, possibly involving creating a deck of cards and shuffling them and then doing something where the order of the cards matters, like a higher, lower kind of game. But stay tuned for that. Let me talk you through what we're going to do today, though. Here we are on Let's Explore. For those of you who didn't come along to the first episode, here's what we're trying to do in these episodes. Each week we're going to try and do a small mission or objective that's loosely related to testing or testing activities, and we're going to try and do it completely raw and unedited. As you'll see, I've not researched any of this in advance. There's going to be mistakes made along the way. We might have to look up some stuff on Google or try and cheat our way to the solution. We're just trying to show that that's not a sin. It's fine to do that sort of thing, to go on Stack Overflow and find the best way of doing something, or the crowdsourced version of what the best might be. It's up to you to decide what the best is. And everything that we do on the session will be available online afterwards. If you look in the description, there will be a link to the GitHub resources page where you'll find all the info for this episode and previous episodes. So today we're going to work in a world that I'm involved in quite a lot, which is the world of APIs. And we're going to use an API challenge app, which has been created by Alan Richardson. You may know him on Twitter as Evil Tester. And we're going to download the API challenge app that he's created. And we're going to try and complete 3 or 4 of the challenges using Postman. The app is also available online. There's a hosted version. I'll show you this in a second. And we're going to finish off, if we've got time, by also trying to do a quick challenge on the hosted version as well. There's a little extra hurdle to overcome there in that you have to use authentication to prove who you are if you're running on the hosted version. But if we get there, that's what we're going to do. So the 2 resources we're going to do today, we're going to use the API Challenges app on Alan's website, and we're also going to use Postman to interact with it. Let me jump out of my slides and take over to Alan's website. Alan is someone I have interacted with professionally quite a lot before. I've used his coaching materials in the past. I've been on courses with him. He's a top chap. He's puts me to shame on the content that he creates. So you'll see already, if we look down this API Challenges page, he's created how-to videos with, as you can see, he knows how to actually embed his picture in the corner of the phone better than just doing iPod movie recording. There's all sorts of guides here. If my guide isn't enough, you better go onto his website and go through it in your own time. But he's got a really simple download section here that we're going to go through in a second, where all you need to do is download a jar file and use those instructions to run it on your own machine. Obviously, when you're downloading something like a jar file, it's kind of a buyer beware situation. Make sure you know what it is that you're downloading. Alan does also provide the actual source to the application itself, so you can compile it yourself and create your own jar file if you want to be doubly sure. Don't just listen to what some random guy on the internet tells you to do. And there's a hosted version of it here on apichallenges.herokuapp.com. So this, you'll see, when I get the version running on my machine, it's going to look exactly the same as this. But we'll come back to this hosted version at the end for that final bit of a challenge. So all you need to do to actually get hold of this, to run it on your machine, you need to go over to Alan's releases page on GitHub. And you'll see he published the last version as of recording was 1.5.5. And there's just a link there to download the jar, which you can do so, and click it and Chrome will do the downloading. It says it's waiting. I blame my internet connection entirely for this. Anyhow, it's downloading. There we go. And it's done it with bracket 1 because, as you can see, I've downloaded it before. I saved some time by actually already downloading this file. So in my terminal here, if I just do a quick ls to show what's in this directory, there is the API challenges jar sitting there waiting for me to use. I've already put it in the right place. And on Alan's website, it says all you need to do to actually start it up is do java-jar and then the name of the file. So I'll do that now. Some things happen. I did do a test run up of this, and I know that this is to be expected. Basically, this text file is what the application uses to store which challenges you've completed. And if it's the first time you started, it will say, can't find the challenge file. In the background, it will have actually created that file now. So there's an empty file there for us to use. But the first time you start it, you will see an error. Don't panic about that. And it says it's running on port 4567. And if I just command click this on a Mac. There we go. This is now running what you just saw on Alan's site, but on my machine. So localhost 4567 is now running Alan's app. And again, everything on here is really self-explanatory, and it's free for you to read through in your own time. We're not going to sit here and read everything together. Important things to note that are really useful. The API has documentation included. So if I click on that, you will see it's a to-do list application. So it's one of these basic sort of things where you can do, add an item, rename an item, delete an item, add descriptions and titles to it. But the full documentation for the API is here for those of you who want it. One awesome thing that there is as well is there's a link to download a Swagger file. So a Swagger is a form of, sort of JSON documentation. If I click it and it downloads it as a JSON file, I told you we were going to use Postman today. One of the things that you can do with a Swagger file, which I actually learned recently from Danny Dainton on Twitter when he was interacting with Alan about his site, you can load Swagger JSON files straight into Postman. So if I switch over to Postman now, I've created an empty collection that we're going to use today. But if I click import and I find that file I just downloaded, which is the simple to do Swagger, I'm going to just keep all the defaults here that Postman has given me because I think they're fine. And I hit import. What I now have is 26 requests for a simple to-do list, and this is everything, every endpoint and every method that you can interact with Alan's API. So I'm not going to use this directly, but it's useful to have it there. Just, so if I'm struggling with one of these challenges, I might go, actually, what request types can you do to the to-dos endpoint, for example? I may find the answers here. So I'll keep it there in case it's useful, but it's good to know that you can pull that straight into Postman if you want. But within the app, as well as the actual API itself, you have got the reason you're here, which is the challenges. So this is, if you've not worked with APIs before, or you have and you want to try and test your mettle like I am, these are a whole load of different ways that which you can interact with the API. And when you do them successfully, the API internally will register that you've done that action, and it will mark the challenge as done. You'll see when we come back to these will go green to say that I've completed them. So there's a whole range of things in here. I think Alan did 30 when he first launched it, and I think there's now up to maybe 40 different challenges in here, and he's adding them all the time. I'm going to start with like the easiest one just to make sure that the whole thing is working, and then I'm just going to scroll down. I'm going to assume they get harder as you go down, and I might just try and cherry pick a couple more further down, possibly working with the sort of things that I don't normally do because I want to try and fail something. I don't want you to just sit here and watch me succeed at 3 things. That's not really interesting. But let's just try and prove that we can make one of these go green and start doing our challenge. So getting started. This is the getting started for, particularly when you're using the hosted version, you have to register to get a challenger ID. We'll come back to that at the end. So I'm going to skip to first real challenge. And the first real challenge involves the endpoint which gets the list of challenges. So in order to succeed the challenge, we need to do a GET request to the endpoint called challenges. Now we're on localhost 4567. So I'm going to take this URL and put it into Postman. Let's create a new request in this episode 2 folder. I'm just going to call it challenge 1. And the URL we want is, I'm going to assume everything is just a slash off the root. I mean, if I've not investigated this properly, it may be that there is like a /API/ whatever, but we will see. When we hit the send button to localhost /challenges, which looks like that is what it wants us to do here. And I assume the bracket means we should get a 200 response code back. The description is issue a GET request on the challenges endpoint. So if I've got the URL right, this should work. I'm going to hit save for luck first of all. Why is my camera frozen? Why is that picture of me frozen in the corner? Are we recording? The video's recording, but I've frozen. When did that image in the bottom right freeze? Can I have my camera back, please? Okay. I wonder. I wasn't paying enough attention. How long was that picture frozen down there? Was it the entire thing? I'm going to plough on. If you've been sitting watching my frozen face for too much longer, then I apologise. Anyhow, so it shows how much I look at my screen. So with this endpoint saved, I should now be able to hit send and get the challenges endpoint. And I get a status 200 back. This looks like what I was asked to do. If we go back to the web page, localhost 4567 challenges, and I refresh this, there we go. That challenge has now gone green to show that I've done it with no ill effect other than accidentally turning off my camera at some point. So that's the example of, you know, completing one of the challenges in these apps. And there's a whole load of them down here. So, okay. Here's a request type that I don't use very often. So that was a get request we just used, but there's a whole load of different verbs you can use. One of the ones that is supported on here is the verb head, which I've never used before, but apparently like a get request, but it only returns the headers and status code. So for example, we just did challenges and we got a whole load of challenges back. You might want to do a head, I suppose, if you just want to check, for example, maybe the endpoint is working and returning the correct status code, but you don't want the whole request, the response body back. If this was something that was really large, for example, like, you know, if you've got something that returns a 10 meg response, but you just want to know if the thing is working, you just want to ping it, I guess you could do a head and it would be a lot quicker. Maybe that's a use case for it. But on the challenge, it asks us to do a head on the endpoint called to-dos, which I assume is the list of to-do items. I might check in a minute afterwards. Let's do a head on it first, and then I'll see what it is. So if I do, let's be good. Let's save. Let's create a new one, just to be clean. Challenge 2. I should also give these better names rather than challenge 1 and challenge 2. This is classic bad naming of things. So localhost 4567/to-dos, and I want to do a head request on it, and I will save that and send. There we go. We get a completely empty response back. We get a 200 OK, and if we look at headers, these are the correct headers that come back. So if I refresh this, has that challenge gone green? It has. Out of pure interest, I'm now going to change that to a get and just see what I get if I do a get on it. Maybe I'll even accidentally complete a challenge in doing so. So this looks like a list of to-do items. So to-do ID 10 is, these are the default items that come pre-installed. So there's one called install webcam, process payments, blah, blah, blah. Just some example to-do list items coming back in the body. Did that complete a challenge? It feels like a cheat if we did. Refresh it again. Yes, there we go. There is a challenge to get the to-dos. Here's an example where we're testing that we can get an error back. So if we do a get on /to-do, which isn't a thing, we should get a 404 back because that isn't the correct URL. Let's just do get /to-do. I didn't rename it to challenge 3. I'm lazy and bad. I got a 404 back, which is what I expect. So that's a good error. And if I refresh this, there we go. That's gone green as well. I'm going to jump towards the end. By default, when I was using Postman, Postman by default sends a accept header in its request. If we look in the headers here, there you go. Postman, these ones that are semi-grayed out because Postman have auto-generated them. So by using Postman to do these tests, I also completed another one for free. So that's good. But again, it's worth reading through these and understanding, well, what does that mean? Why have I completed that? What other values could I send through for accept? And in fact, this is the accept challenges section. So hey, let's finish off by doing one of these. If I change the accept header to application/XML, I should get the same data back, but in XML format. Let's see if that's the case. How do you override? Can I just start typing one of these to override it? Let's have a look. No, do I have to untick it to say I don't want to use the default? And just key in another one. I was kind of hoping I could just overwrite that one, but this will do what I want anyway. Accept application XML. I should have saved it at challenge 3. I told you I'm lazy. And if I hit send, do we get to-do data back? Oh, no, I need to change the URL to to-dos. Nearly made an actual mistake there. So get to-dos, but we're going to ask for the format to come back in XML. And there we go. A lot of very XML-like data, which if I refresh has turn that one green. So there you go. There's a whole load of different things that allow you to explore elements of an API that you wouldn't normally, like, for example, getting the accept types back and that sort of thing. I'm going to go through in my own time and complete these, and I'll put a screenshot up on my Twitter after this episode goes up to just prove I've got a full slate of greens. But just to finish off, I'm going to show you the hosted example, because some people might not be able to run jars on their own machine. They may not have, for example, permission to install Java on their machine, or you may just want to just jump in more quickly. So the version that Alan has that's hosted on this URL, the URL again is in the description of the episode. The only thing to bear in mind about this is there's a note on here somewhere saying the data is reset every 10 minutes. I think it says it's on the challenge page somewhere. It doesn't say it there. It says it somewhere because I know that it does. When it says it resets the data every 10 minutes, it means the actual data of the to-do list itself. So if you start creating to-do list items and then you come back 10 minutes later and try and get them back again, they won't necessarily be there. I believe it does still retain your challenge status, because we're going to do it in a second, but it uses a header to work out who you are. So that doesn't get reset every 10 minutes. So you can keep plugging away at it, but the important thing is you need to get a header, because otherwise Alan's site can't distinguish you from other traffic, for example, or other people on your IP address. It needs you to authenticate with the site to tell it who you are. So to clarify, it says an unknown challenger ID at the top. We haven't told it who we are. Let's read through this verbatim to make sure we understand what it wants. To view your challenges in what it calls multi-user mode, you can actually set multi-user mode up on your own machine as well if you want to have multiple people testing locally on your machine. Make sure you have registered as a challenger using a post request to challenger and are including the header in all your requests. So if you do a simple post to challenger, which I will do, I'm going to create a new challenge here called hosted challenge. And we want to set this as a post to, did we say it was /challenger? Let's check. Post request to /challenger. Now I believe this should return to us, firstly a status, everything okay, and it returns a header, and that header has a GUID in it, which is a string here that's unique to me. I'm going to copy that into an empty text file. Normally I'd write it down by hand, but I don't want to start writing GUIDs down by hand. It's also got, usefully, this thing called location. Now this is a URL that if you, it's a part of a URL that if you append it to the root of Alan's URL, it gives you the challenge page specific for that challenger ID, so you can get straight to it. So I'm going to save that there as well. What I will actually do is open that in a new window. If I put the root of the URL on, plus the bit that I just downloaded, that should give us, here we go, my challenge page for the hosted app. The first one has already gone green because that is the one you need to do to prove that you can do a post request and get a challenger back. So from this point forward, basically, I could use Alan's hosted version exactly the same as my local one now. So I could get all of them green. In fact, maybe that's where I'll do it, because then I could share this URL with you and prove you can actually jump to it and say, hey, Neil, with this ID, got everything to go green. So that's basically everything that I was going to show you in this episode. The fact that you can use Postman to interact with APIs, the fact that an API itself has various different types of verbiage, the fact that you've got request and response statuses, and that you can use an app such as this to learn all about how APIs work. And if you get stuck on a particular challenge, you could ask Alan or myself or anyone of the testing community online to say, hey, how do I do, for example, an options request? And I'm sure you find someone who's very helpful to help you out. I'm more than happy to help if anyone gets stuck with any of this stuff. Obviously, if you've got any suggestions for improvements for the future, then Alan is the person to go to. I know he's always working on updating this. He was very kind to actually push a new update to the releases page just to make sure my local version was in sync with the version we're seeing on his site. So, yeah, that was the mission we set out to accomplish today in Let's Explore, which concludes everything we're hoping to do for episode 2. Now, episodes 3 and 4 for the next 2 weeks, we're going to do something that is actually more like actual testing. We're going to do an actual exploratory testing session on a website. In episode 3, I'm going to basically freestyle it. I'm going to show you how I would normally make notes when I'm testing. And then in episode 4, without posting spoilers for too much further down the line, we're going to use a different app that's going to help us to record our exploratory testing notes. I'll let you try and guess what that might be. But basically, yeah, 2 testing related sessions coming up very soon. And in the meantime, if you hit the subscribe button, you'll get notified as soon as the new episodes come up. Otherwise, I'm available on Twitter @NeilStud and would love to talk to you. Look down in the description for more about how to find the resources for this episode, or to leave some notes in the comments about how you found this episode. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye.